In terms of price, I would say that threshold is probably somewhere at I don't know, maybe 500,000 per Bitcoin, maybe 400,000 Bitcoin. Somewhere there is where we start becoming the second largest asset class on the planet. And people can kind of directly compare gold at the top with, 20 trillion, and Bitcoin with, half of that. And I think at that point you start to demonetize gold because, you have this new thing that is surpassing that 1,000-year monetary technology in 16, 17, 18 years. I don't think there's another thing you can do. Like, the era of making new fiat is over. What you've got right now is it, and when this dies, it's over. Because Bitcoin is superior, like in every way, even to gold.
샘슨 모우는 비트코인 업계에서 매우 잘 알려진 인물로 특히 비트코인 최대주의자로서 활동하고 있는 대표적인 인물 중 하나입니다. 그는 블록체인 기술 전반보다는 오직 비트코인 자체의 가치와 철학에 집중하며 전통 금융 시스템에 대한 대안을 주장하는 입장을 고수하고 있습니다. 그가 창립한 회사의 목표는 비트코인 채택을 전 세계적으로 확대하는 것으로 특히 국가 단위의 비트코인 채택을 추진하고 있으며 엘살바도르의 비트코인 법정화폐 채택을 공개적으로 지지하고 협력한 바 있습니다. 샘슨 모우에 따르면 하루 만에 10만 달러가 움직이는 캔들을 얘기하며 현실 가능성과 함께 왜 비트코인이 멈출 수 없는 상승 돌파를 향하고 있는지 이미 신의 캔들이 등장했고 오메가 캔들이 곧 나타날 것이라는 이유를 분석합니다.
The US is seemingly on a track to recovery from financial mismanagement, let's say. I don't see the same happening in Europe and other places. They're all sort of in denial, but at least the Trump admin has sort of recognized the problem. That's why they're trying to stop the death spiral. That's why they've implemented the Department of Government Efficiency. This is why they're trying to lower the 10-year rates. They realize that the debt is unsustainable. Inflation is a symptom. And something has to be done. And they're trying these other things, but Bitcoin is the only solution that will fix these things. So, yeah, to answer your question, yeah, it's a bit surprising the US was the next big one. I thought we'd have another big country, and that's kind of what we've been trying to accomplish at Jan 3. But what we've encountered is just everyone wants to wait for the US, and there's just a lot of fear of career risk. And with this shift in the US landscape, I think there is no more career risk. And that alleviation of the fear about doing something with Bitcoin, it just hasn't made its way around the world yet. Many Bitcoiners were expecting, we're going to get an Omega candle right now with the EO, but I think you need some massive change before that is going to happen, like retail coming in or normal people understanding Bitcoin, and or even just the action of buying either from the US or other countries, and that hasn't happened yet. The EO is just sort of news, and it's not well understood, and the impact is not well understood. So yes, the adoption of Bitcoin in the US is a direct threat, and it's not even about Bitcoin at this point. Like, the US is also looking to push stablecoins in a big way, and it looks like Tether is going to be a part of that. So what does that mean for Europe? I think they should be far more concerned about stablecoins because the barrier to understand a stablecoin is far lower than Bitcoin. So imagine you can go to any merchant with your self-custodial wallet, pay the merchant in a stablecoin, and that's fully outside of their control. Like, they can't really police that. Maybe they'll try. They'll go more draconian, more authoritarian, but it won't work. And the CBDC won't work either. So yeah, I'm just not sure what's happening in Europe now, but it doesn't look good for sure. Yeah, so the Omega candle is a 100K candle, and a God candle, or also called a Godzilla candle, is a 10K candle. But the Omega candle, it should be green, but it might be red. Like, one of the first God candles, I think, was a red God candle, like 10K down. But it just goes to show that the Bitcoin price movements are becoming bigger and bigger, and people are not always aware of these movements. But I still see people poking at me and saying, "Hey, where's your God candle that you've been talking about?" And my reaction is like, go look at the chart. There have been like 8 or 9 of them so far, but people aren't really aware, and they're not going to be aware of the Omega candle too. Maybe they will, who knows? But like, the indication is that if we're seeing God candles regularly, 10K daily movements, it's probably going to bring us to a 100K daily movement relatively soon. And 100K is just, 10x. Bitcoin has done 17x in the past with a totally different macroeconomic landscape than today. Like zero Bitcoin national adoption, no strategic Bitcoin reserves, no talk about issuing Bitcoin bonds, and no talk about buying 1 million Bitcoin from the US. So it's completely within the realm of possibility that you get a 100K candle soon, maybe this year. So I think that the biggest thing is the Omega candle is saying be ready for this when it happens because things are changing very, very rapidly. So a Veblen good is you could call it a luxury good. It's valuable because it's expensive and it's a sign of prestige and wealth. And, you wouldn't pay, you don't want to pay less for an LV bag. You want to pay more and signal the wealth. And this is like applicable to anything like luxury cars and phones to a lesser extent and, fashion. So a Veblen effect is just taking that and extrapolating that concept and applying it to Bitcoin, whereby there is like a threshold at which Bitcoin crosses this and now it is like the new gold. And I think we're already seeing an inkling of that with the executive order to create the SBR. I need exposure to this. I'm willing to dump my gold and buy some of this. And maybe gold is the only valuable thing a lot of people have left after the dollar starts to hyperinflate or devalue even more. Because you have to imagine at that threshold, like, what does the world look like when Bitcoin is $500,000? It's a very different world than today, right? It's not 80, 90, 100, 108. It's a very radically different world. And I think people miss that mindset that things change as Bitcoin goes up in big chunks. Like 200, it's a very different world. From 200, 500, you just have to, double plus a little bit, right? And then from 500 to 1 million, it's just a double. So these things become more likely the higher we go because it's not like we're 10xing, we're just doubling from 500 at that Veblen threshold. So we've been working on this for a number of years post El Salvador, and it's always been a challenging conversation. Yeah, we'll see what happens, but if the US can link Bitcoin to its T-bills, like through a Bitcoin bond, it can soften that delay. Maybe it'll extend it for another 5 years. And is that a good thing or a bad thing? I don't know, but it'll soften the blow because Bitcoin is kind of cushioning the legacy system as it falls over. And that's also why we're doing what we're doing at Jan 3 to get countries onboarded to Bitcoin, because if you can get these parallel systems in place, Bitcoin pesos, Bitcoin yen, Bitcoin RMB, then at least you have a secondary rail where people have some exposure to it, some understanding of it, that they can make that migration. Otherwise, it's just imagine like we flip the switch tomorrow and suddenly, I don't know, pick a big country, like say India. Suddenly India must use Bitcoin because the rupee is gone. It's like zeroed. That would be mass chaos. And you don't want that. Like, it's really bad for people when these things happen. It's a lot of chaos, a lot of suffering, and potentially death.
샘슨 모우는 비트코인의 상승이 지금이라고 얘기하며 비트코인 50만 달러는 단지 가능한 수준이 아니라 필연적인 것이라고 말합니다. 그는 비트코인의 마지막 축적 단계가 진행되고 있다며 오메가 캔들의 차트가 떠오르기 전에 자리 잡을 것을 조언합니다. 우리는 객관적인 시각으로 투자를 해야 하고 지금 당장만 보고 투자할 게 아니라 미래를 보고 투자를 해야겠죠. 010-2472-0429 전화번호로 탈개미 적어서 문자 보내주시면 2025년 비트코인과 코인 시장에 대한 분석, 정보들 공유해드리겠습니다. 현재 우리에게 중요한 것은 이러한 정보를 어떻게 활용할 것인가입니다. 지금까지 영상 시청해주셔서 감사하고요. 다음에 더 좋은 영상으로 찾아뵙겠습니다. 감사합니다.